Coming up this evening, President John Mahama leads tributes for former First Lady Nana Konadu Rawlings as the state lays her to rest. Also coming up, Kumasi High Court settles marital dispute as it declares two women legally married to the late High Life legend Daddy Lumba. We'll be giving you an update of the story in a jiffy, and later, Deputy Minority Leader in Parliament Patricia Appiagyei calls for immediate withdrawal of Alexander Peñomakin's referral to the Privileges Committee of Parliament over ECOWAS Parliament controversy. We have details of all of these and more coming up for the next 1 hour. Let's bring you the news summaries with Nura Mohammed. Hello, Nura.
Hello, Martin. Good evening. My name is Nura Mohammed, and these are the summaries for the hot edition this evening. First in the summaries, the Cybersecurity Authority, CSA, has warned consumers to exercise extreme caution when shopping online during the Black Friday sales period, after revealing that more than 600,000 Ghana cedis was lost to internet shopping fraud between January and October 2025. In a public alert issued on Friday, 28th November 2025, the CSA said it recorded 266 cases of online shopping scams within the 10-month period, reflecting a surge in cyber-enabled fraud as retailers roll out heavy promotional discounts. Also, the Artisanal Small-Scale Miners Association in Obuasi is demanding from government and AngloGold Ashanti AGA an immediate step to secure a designated mining area for its members. The association has issued a one-week deadline for authorities to respond. The association says it has run out of patience following what it describes as months of stalled engagement after the January 18, 2025 incident in which 9 residents were killed when soldiers guarding the AngloGold Ashanti concession allegedly fired gunshots at community members. Now, still on Galamsey, Executive Director of the Ghana Center for Democratic Governance, CDD Ghana, Professor Kwesi Prempeh has wondered why the police will get themselves involved in arresting persons who make defamatory comments against ministers of state. Now, Prof. Prempeh made the point that the defamed minister has a right to cause his alleged defamer to retract and apologize or face a civil defamation suit for damages. Also, Guinea-Bissau's deposed President Umaro Sissoko Embalo has arrived in neighboring Senegal following his release by military forces that toppled his government this week. Senegal's authorities have announced it follows negotiations by the regional West African bloc ECOWAS to secure his transfer amid rising tensions in Guinea-Bissau. Senegal's foreign ministry said in a statement that Embalo had landed in the country safe and sound on a chartered military flight on Thursday. That'll be all for the summaries. Over to you, Martin.
Thank you very much, Nura, for the news summaries. Let's settle for the details of our stories now. We are starting from the Ashanti region because the Kumasi High Court has ruled that both Priscilla Ofori, popularly known as Odobruni, and Akosia Sewa Fosu, are the customarily married wives of the late Daddy Lumba, the High Life icon. The judgment delivered by Justice Dorinda Smith Arthur dismissed the plaintiff request to be declared as the only surviving wife. The legal dispute erupted when the plaintiff, Akosia Sewa, asserted that she was Daddy Lumba's sole lawful wife, relying on a German marriage certificate to establish her claim. But the court found her argument fundamentally flawed. Let's speak to Ibrahim Abubakar, our correspondent in the region, who followed this particular case for us in court. Ibrahim, thank you for your time. Tell us more about this judgment. What exactly were some of the considerations before the judge arrived at this decision?
Martin, you know, the plaintiff, Akosia Sewa, was relying on a German marriage certificate to establish a claim. And when, according to the judge, the document presented was an extract, so they couldn't authenticate it and also even validate those documents. And they also ruled that even that certificate, the one who signed does not meet the requirements, so they needed an official diplomat seal, but those things were missing, and so that person had no legal authority to do so. So, in effect, all the documents that they brought regarding the civil marriage issue regarding Akosua Sewa and Daddy Lumba was rejected by the court because they couldn't authenticate it. Now, the court also upheld that, yes, there have been evidence to show that Odobroni, who is Priscilla Ofori, is also the wife of Lumba, because publicly he has acknowledged her as the wife, and there are evidence to show that there were customary marriage. So, in short, all that it is saying that both wives are legally married to him, and for that matter, they will all be allowed to perform the widowhood plan. So it is kind of a win-win situation, even though clearly you could see lawyers of the plaintiff unhappy because they brought the matter before the court to question that their client be declared the only surviving wife of the late high life legend. But for the lawyers of the defendants, they believe that it is a win-win situation, and that is what Daddy Lumba himself has been yearning for, so that after his demise there will be peace. But then there was also one striking thing that the judge, Justice Dorinda Smith, Arthur, also observed. She says that although the plaintiff acknowledged that Lumba had returned to Ghana due to his ill health, and she, Akosua Sewa, made no effort to join him, undermining her own assertion that she was abandoned by Daddy Lumba. And for that matter, after a comprehensive review of all evidence, like I said, the court concluded that the customary marriages of both Odobroni and Akosua Sewa to the deceased were valid and legally recognized. So now the court also went a step further to say that they do not want to see anything that will hinder the release of the musician's body to the family for burial. But now the bone of contention is that when the funeral will be conducted, because on the part of the Busuapeni, they have proposed a date. They said 13th of December. That's when the funeral will be held at the Baba Yara Sports Stadium. But on the part of the plaintiff and also some other sisters of Daddy Lumba, they are also insisting that the funeral will be held, that's next year, March 14th. So we now await to see whether the funeral will be held on 13th December or it will rather be pushed to 14th March 2026.
I only can wonder what Daddy Lumba is thinking about all this back and forth, But Ibrahim, tell us about the reaction from both sides to the ruling, and how are they carrying on from there? Is it that you could tell from maybe their body language that, well, based on this ruling, let us mend our differences and move forward, or there clearly is still some disagreement and acrimony between them?
Well, Martin, I can tell you that the agreement is still visible, because when they even came out of the courtroom, you could clearly see on their face that some were unhappy, some were happy, because for the team of Akosua Sewa, almost all of them were unhappy. They came out, they just left. Some were even raining insults on the others. And we have supporters of both parties also coming to the courtroom. So today,
hello, Ibrahim. Unfortunately, we seem to have lost Ibrahim on the line. He's our Ashanti regional correspondent and giving us an update of what happened in court. But the lawyer for Akosua Sewa, or some of you may know her as Sewa Bruni, her lawyer has been speaking right after the judgment was given. Let's listen to him.
I disagree, but I respect it.
So going for that, do you have anything to do?
It will depend on what my client says. You see, when my client says that, I should appear away.
Right, that is lawyer for Sewa Bruni, and clearly the indication is that the judge in the Kumasi High Court has said that both women were legally, or henceforth, should be recognized as wives of the late Daddy Lumba. Let's listen to the lawyer for the other party to this suit, who has also been speaking to the media right after the developments today.
What transpired, the plaintiff, Mami Akosua Sewa, came to court for a declaration that she should be made the only surviving spouse of Daddy Lumba, and that the court should also prevent Odobroni from acting as the wife of Daddy Lumba. And we defended that no, the court cannot comply with the request of Mamia Kosha Sewa that we cannot behave or be seen as the wife of Daddy Lumba. And as far as we are concerned, we were legally and lawfully married under customary law.
Right, so you heard the voice of the other lawyer, or the lawyer on the defense side. So, I mean, what do you make of this particular development, or this story, which has been unraveling over the last several months? And you would recall that we have been following it right from the onset of Daddy Lumba's passing, and then when key dignitaries, including the Asantehene, the President of the Republic, and all those who matter, after they were all formally informed about the passing of Daddy Lumba, then the family decided to start making arrangements. But before they could even have their first family meeting, this issue of who is the original spouse of Daddy Lumba became topical, and for almost 5 to 6 months now, the issue has still not been settled. We'll see what the next days look like, especially now that this court has ruled that both women should be recognized as the wives of Daddy Lumba. And then in the coming days as well, if they agree to mend their differences and move forward, we will let you know. If not, we certainly will let you know as well. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Let's turn our attention to the most topical conversation in Ghana today. And that has to do with the passing and final funeral of Nana Konadu Agyeman-Rawlings, Ghana's longest-serving former First Lady. Now, the nation paused at the Black Star Square, which many of you know as the Independence Square, united in grief and gratitude as hundreds gathered to celebrate the life and legacy of former First Lady Nana Konadu Agyeman-Rawlings. Enyonam Haliga brings us a wrap of the tributes and what transpired today when the nation gathered to bid farewell to Nana Konadu Agyeman-Rawlings.
The mood at the Independence Square was heavy with loss, yet warm with shared memories, as Ghana paid tribute to the memory of one of its fiercest daughters, Nana Konadu Agyeman-Rawlings. Dignitaries from all walks of life gathered to celebrate a woman whose influence stretched far beyond her role as First Lady. The tribute spoke not only to her political presence, but of her humanity, her strength, her fire, and her unmistakable passion that defined her life's work. Speaker after speaker recalled a woman who challenged norms, uplifted women, and stood firm in her convictions even when the world pushed back.
Mom, Queen of our hearts, your legacy lives on through the lessons you taught us, the love you shared, and the example you set. We borrow your shared strength of spirit. We are illuminated in the purity of your essence, consoled by the knowledge that your soul's mission is for a higher realm, for us, your 4 children. We will avowedly seek to sink our feet into the footsteps of your gallant ways, and with divine grace, emulate your dignified dance through life.
Nana Konadu's legacy was painted in stories shared, stories
not merely to support a revolution, but to define one. The history of the NDC cannot be told without her name spoken boldly and with honor. She was not an observer of the struggle. She was an architect of its success.
Nana Konadu Agyeman-Rawlings may be gone, but the echoes of her work and her spirit continue to resonate. For many young women today, her life is a charted course towards achieving even greater heights for women.
And you heard a wrap of what happened at the Independence Square earlier today when the nation gathered to bid farewell to Nana Konadu Agyeman-Rawlings. May her soul continue to rest in perfect peace. Let's go to Parliament now. The Majority Chief Whip, Roxy Nelson Dapamekpo, has criticized what he described as attempts by the minority to denigrate the reputation of the Tamale High Court judge who presided over the Pandai parliamentary election petition. It follows the earlier concerns expressed by the minority leader over the delayed release of the full judgment, despite assurances it would be ready by Friday. Now, the NPP's Northern Regional Executive Committee has vowed to resist the High Court's decision to annul the Pandai parliamentary election, with Communications Director Dan Juma describing it.
Basically, after the business statement was read and contributions from members taken, few issues came on the floor, one of which is what the minority leader Alexander Afenyomarkin raised, that on Monday, when the presiding judge made a ruling that there should be a rerun of parliamentary election across the entire constituency, the other attached notice to it was that the full judgment or the full reasoning of the court will be made available by today so that all parties in the case would get access to it. Now, he raised the concern that as of the time he was speaking on the floor, the lawyer to Matthew Yendam had gone to the court, and the court registrar had made it known that the judgment is still not ready, and as a matter of fact, the judge has traveled to Accra. And so we can take a listen to Alexander Afenyomarkin make that claim on the floor, and even make a point that if that happens, then indeed the Honorable Matthew Yendam cannot get the full reasoning of the court to pursue his repeal, also bearing in mind that after Monday he cannot participate in parliamentary proceedings. But we can take a listen to him and exactly what he said on the floor.
My understanding was to the effect that the judgment will be ready for him to explore the necessary appellate processes. But my Lord, Mr. Speaker, if a court of justice with a judge sitting as a judge of equity and of law makes a determination of a matter that has far-reaching consequences, knowing that indeed this pronouncement has an effect, and how the member who is affected can exercise right, the means to exercise right is not available. And as we speak, the registry of the court has closed. The registrar says judgment is not ready. The judge is going to Accra. He left Tamale at 10 a.m. Mr. Speaker, these are constitutional implications. And I feel that as a leader of my caucus, a member of my caucus, haven't come to me with such grave concerns, especially so when the ruling, if we are counting the statutory 7 days automatic stay, what it means is that the 7 days start from the Monday. Meanwhile, the judgment upon which the order emanates is not even ready. Mr. Speaker, the rule is that you can't place something on nothing, it will fall. A ruling or an order is extracted from a judgment.
And that's the voice of Minority Leader Alexander Afenyomarkin. Yes, Christian.
Hello, Martin.
Yes. So, what did he speak before the Majority Chief Whip? Because we hear that he has also referenced the last press conference that Alexander Afenyomarkin addressed, where he used some unprintable words against the judge. In the Pandai case. How did they resolve that?
Martin, so the Majority Chief Whip, Roxy Nelson Dapamekpo, addressed the press after the minority leader had spoken on the floor of the House to level those claims. Basically, the Majority Chief Whip is of the view that there is this coordinated attempt by the minority side to more or less run down the presiding judge and to make it look as though the judge does not know his job, and that should not be countenanced. And so he responds to the claims by the minority leader and makes a fact that one cannot file for an appeal when they do not know the content of the judgment. So, and he actually says that the Honorable Matthew Nyendam filed an appeal just some few minutes after the order by the judge had been made that there should be a rerun. So upon what basis did Matthew Nyendam file the appeal when they claim, or he claims not to have had any knowledge of what the order or the ruling was? He subsequently makes the case that the NDC currently is campaigning in Pandai, and so must the NBP do, and not channel their energy into addressing press conferences and using unprintable words against the judiciary, and come back later to lament when they eventually lose the seat to the former member of parliament for Pandai, Nsala Wakpal, who is a party to this case. We can take a listen to him address the media after that consent by the minority leader.
If you do not have the judgment, if you do not have the terms of the judgment, there is no way you can file grounds of appeal or a notice of appeal containing grounds of the appeal. So the supposition that the judge is here to deliver the full reasoned judgment of the court, as a result of which the Honorable Nyendam is incapacitated in filing his appeal, is totally false. So the attempt by the minority leader to claim on the floor of Parliament that the judge has done something untoward and that the Honorable Nyendam has been rendered incapacitated in filing further processes is absolutely incorrect. He has followed through with filing every reasonable process available to him to remedy the situation that he finds himself in. There's a certain attempt to run the judge of the High Court under the bus or throw him under the bus, but we will not allow that. We will not permit that. As Parliament and as members of Parliament, we must always speak to the truer facts. The battleground is in Pandai. That is the battleground. The battleground for rerun of this parliamentary elections is not in the foyer of Parliament, not a long press statement peddling or citing inaccurate facts to the public. The job is on the ground. They should leave their comfort zones. We, NDC, we are on the ground. We are working. We are working as we speak. NDC, we are working. We are in Pandai. We are campaigning. They won't come and campaign. When they lose, then they blame innocent people. Because this time, violence won't give them victory. So if Speaker says there's automatic stay of 7 days, that is the law. Yes. And the law is the law. Yes. The law is the law. After Monday, we'll raise further matters. Yeah. This matter, whatever it is, the rerun is in Pandai. Sure.
And that's Roxy Nelson Dapamekpo, the majority chief whip. So in wrapping up, Christian, what else can you tell us transpired? Like you said that it was a short sitting today. Were these the only issues that came up in the House?
In fact, after the business statement had been read by the majority leader, the minority chief whip, Frank Anodom-Pre, had raised an issue asking for the programming of the Lands Minister, Emmanuel Kofi Amabua, to appear before the House somewhere next week to provide an update to the House on government efforts in tackling the illegal mining menace. That received a direct rebuttal from the majority leader, Mahama Yarga, who indicated that most of the MPs, including Frank Anodom-Pre, are pretending to be concerned about the fight against illegal mining. But the galamsey, as it were, is happening in constituencies. And he, Mahama Yarga, has not received reports from any member of parliament on what they have done respectively in their constituencies to fight illegal mining. So they shouldn't go about the public display of a pretense that they care about ending illegal mining, but they should all tackle it. As it puts it, charity begins at home. Those were some of the concerns that came up. And also, there was a concern about the National Health Insurance Authority and claims that have not been paid by service providers, among many others. Martin.
Right. Thank you very much, Christian Yali, our parliamentary correspondent, updating us from the House. We saw most of the MPs at the funeral service of the late Nana Konadu Agyeman-Rawlings, and right after that they all dashed to the House of Parliament to transact business. And as we speak, our correspondent has confirmed to us that the House is on recess and will be reconvening on Tuesday. On Tuesday, which will be at 12 o'clock. So trust us to update you on what would happen in Parliament. You're still listening to Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Let's turn our attention to energy-related matters now. And the Nuclear Regulatory Authority, the NRA, has organized a dissemination.
The Euro project has supported the NRA in the development of a regulatory strategy for nuclear power, an integrated management system, and human resources, regulatory documents, and licensing support. Additionally, the project supported transparency, public information, and collaboration with International Atomic Energy Agency. Director General of the NRA, Professor Francis Otu, says NRA's regulatory strategy, when approved by Parliament, would serve as a working document for the NRA to become an effective and independent regulatory body. Meanwhile, Director of Nuclear Installations at the NRA, Emmanuel Ampoma Amwako, said the project has strengthened the regulatory infrastructure for nuclear safety.
It's good to tell the good stories so that you would be able to encourage other partners to provide as much support as possible. So this meeting or this workshop was to provide a platform for the contractor, which is ENCO, the European Union, the main sponsor, and the Nuclear Regulatory Authority, who is the recipient of the support.
Deputy European Union Ambassador to Ghana, Jones Clears, explained that the INSC was a dedicated tool to promote nuclear safety, radiation protection, and effective safeguards in countries outside the EU.
Nuclear safety, not just in handling of this energy source, but also for protecting the communities, for protecting the waste management afterwards. So as Ghana is gearing up to further develop its nuclear energy capabilities, we will stand by their side to help ensure nuclear safety.
In more news this evening, following relevant revelations, that some senior high schools are using the government-provided tablets to watch pornographic material, a lot of stakeholders have shown concern and want a redirection of the policy. On Thursday, while addressing Parliament, the Education Minister Haruna Idrisu revealed that some senior high school students were using government-distributed laptops to watch pornography, promising swift action to reverse the trend.
I inherited a contract worth about $337 million, where some 1.3 million tablets was to be distributed across the country to all free senior high schools in the country so that learners can have access to digital tools. I'm told that deployment of that is around 980,000. We are through GET funds supporting the distribution across the country. But my attention this morning, Mr. Speaker, was drawn to the fact that many of the devices are not customized and the students are using it for other purposes, including pornography, which is not acceptable. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, government is taking a high view of it, and there must be restrictions as to what the tablets can be used for, and it should be used strictly for purpose of study.
And that is Haruna Idrisu, Ghana's Education Minister, giving some revelations to the Parliament of Ghana and by extension all guardians and parents in the country. But how concerning is this issue? Let's discuss it now. Divine, where is an education research and policy analyst? He's joined us on the line for a quick chat. Mr. Kwe, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Have you also come across, this particular kind of concern about the use of these government-issued tablets? And did any of them or the news you may have heard also sound similar to what the minister is telling us?
All right, thank you, and good evening to your listeners as well. I have been on the field last 3 weeks. Yep, I spent 2 weeks on the field and just returned on 22nd. That's last Saturday. On this similar issue or regarding integration of ICT in education. So there's a study that I'm part of looking at how ICT is being integrated in teaching and learning. And of course, automatically the dimension of the use of the tablet also came in. There were concerns when it comes to how ICT tools may be destructive to learners that I understood are present in our schools. But I did not come across directly the usage of the devices for pornographic purposes. But teachers were concerned about how students use the devices other than what it should have been intended for. For instance, some of the devices have radio, so some students use them for radio listening to music. Some of them watch movies with them. They load movies on pen drive and then slot them to watch during prep hours. So some of these concerns were raised during my field visit last week, not specifically about pornography, but the minister mentioned it, of course. It tells that it's another dimension of how the device is being misused by the student, and it is concerning, and therefore calls for us to have a conversation about how we can ensure security around the device so that the students cannot be able to use them for other purposes. It is not something that cannot be done, and I know some of the devices that were given out, they've enhanced security on them. So I'm surprised they've given out some of them without enhancing their security features, and the students are misusing them. So this is not something that cannot be addressed. It can be, and now we encourage that steps are taken to, as early as possible, retrieve such devices that have not been enhanced when it comes to security-wise, so that they can as well be protected before giving back to the students.
And do you have a clear understanding from this particular policy directive or direction, which is the distribution of these tablets? What really is that expected to achieve? And based on the rounds you've embarked on and the research you're undertaking, are we largely getting value for why these tablets have been distributed? Are we achieving that aim?
All right. So the purpose is to enhance teaching and learning in terms of how digital devices can be integrated in teaching and learning. The fact remains that if we are able to help the students and, of course, the teachers to use these devices very well, it can enhance teaching and learning. That is the point. So the idea of the policy is not wrong. It is good because given the age that we can optimize digital devices to ensure our students get the best out of their education, especially when we want to place learners at the center of learning and no more teachers at the center of learning. If you want learners to be at the center of learning, it means that they must be at the forefront of constructing their own knowledge. And if students can have these digital devices, they can go online, do their own researches, and without a teacher spoon-feeding them at all. So the teacher can even ensure that the learners are able to do collaborative work, whereby the learners are grouped and then they set their own knowledge, discuss, and present in class. So it's a very good concept. However, I don't think so far we have optimized the usage of the devices. No, we have not optimized them because, number one, then for students to be able to effectively use this device, they must be connected to the internet. If they are offline, the basic that they can do is to use the devices as or access the e-textbooks that are on them. That is the basic that they can do with the devices. But if you want the learners to be able to do research, to be able to do collaborative learning, to be able to be given assignments and then at their own, they do research and come out with their own ideas, then they must be connected to the device. But you may not be aware of the situation around the internet situation in our schools. Government some years ago provided internet service to all senior high schools across the country, but they are no more functioning. So students cannot connect to the internet, and therefore the basic that they do with these devices are just to access e-textbook. That is very limiting. And if you have that, it tells you that students even may not even know beyond what to use the devices for. So if all the student can do is to access e-book on them, then this temptation of saying to use the devices for other purposes that we are hearing of even becomes so heightened. But I think that so far, although the intention of procuring these particular devices and distributing them to students are very good, we have not so far optimized them because, number one, we don't have functioning internet in our senior high school to ensure students are able to take charge of their own learning preparation. And then also, yes, teacher capacity is being enhanced, but it is happening in a gradual stage. So some teachers have so far, even although the devices are in their school, have not been able to help learners or how they can use these devices in teaching and learning. So maybe only a few teachers are so far utilizing the devices in their teaching and learning, and a large number are not. So there's a need for us to also to capacitate teachers on how they can help their learners to be able to use these devices in teaching and learning. So that gap also exists, and I'm sure if we're able to address these two main gaps, capacitate teachers, have functional ICT in our schools, then we can be able to maximize the purpose for which we procure these devices for.
Right. So my final question would be, how do we approach this? The minister is more or less threatening that some strong sanctions or action will be taken in this regard. How should this action be taken, and do you believe or think that we need to do further consultation so we can get the buy-in of even parents? Because I don't think the students use the devices only on campus. So parents, teachers, and government, so we can be sure that what these devices are being distributed for will be largely achieved. What's your proposition going forward?
Yes, the main concern by the minister is using it for other purposes, and then there's pornographical aspect also comes in. For pornographical aspects, it's something that can be addressed within a short time. All it needs to customize the devices by having endpoint security so that the student cannot be able to use them for other purposes other than for their educational purpose. Besides that, we have systems where the devices can be remotely monitored. So all the devices at the school level, we can have a system that at the school level, the ICT coordinator, now secondary schools are having ICT coordinators. It used to be ICT teachers or head of ICT department that's coordinating ICT issues in the school. But because they have to combine that with teaching and learning, now government has posted dedicated ICT coordinators to the school so that teachers can focus on teaching their ICT. So these coordinators can have a back end that at the center end, they can monitor students' usage of these devices. What website do these students visit if they are connected online? What are they using them for? Which apps are they using? These are things that essence can be, or these are things that can be done at the school level. If students are aware that our devices are being monitored at the school level, then they know that, look, it's not that I'm doing it secretive or I'm hiding it. Somebody is still or can still watch me. So they become more cautious. So we need to have the endpoints where they can access some sites. And then number two, there has to be a centralized system where the ICT coordinators in the school regularly or periodically can be able to monitor the usage of these devices. What are students using them for, without even having to take the devices to look at them. At the central point, that pattern or a trend can present itself in that central database for the ICT device to take, teacher to take an action. That needs to be done. But beyond that, I think when it comes to issue of pornography, parents also need to be part of the conversation and then part of the solution. I think students mostly have the access to these devices even before coming to school. So if the student gets to school and then the tendency to visit such sites are still there, then it tells you that probably the student might be doing that while they were at home, having access to smart devices. So parents must be concerned when they have given their wards digital devices. Are they ensuring even on their own that their wards are not visiting such adult websites? Are they ensuring that they are also fixing security features such that their wards cannot use their devices for some internet access, like what we are talking about, the pornography.
Right.
When the security starts at home, then the child becomes concerned. When the child gets to school, knows that, look, I've already gotten some level of monitoring at school, from home, and therefore become cautious when you get to school as well. So we need not to rule out parents' contribution in this discussion. They have to be central part of it. But largely, we need to train our students on how to use devices for effective purpose. Some of them, they don't know how to use these devices, so all they need to do is to go and surf the internet for some of this, or to be on social media. But when we empower our students on how they can use these digital devices to enhance their knowledge, then they'll be able to as well shy away from this temptation of visiting on that side.
All right. Mr. Divine, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts this evening.
Thank you.
And he is an education research and policy analyst, and was helping us look at the broader picture of the concern raised by the education minister following a revelation that some students have been found to be using the tablets for ulterior reasons or ulterior motives beyond what they have been distributed for. Some of them, according to the minister, were using them for pornographic viewing, which is quite concerning. And so, well, it looks as though this is an issue that we all need to find a way of dealing with decisively so we can nip it in the bud as soon as possible. This is still 3FM 92.7. Before we go to business, though, let's bring some of your messages. Emil Smith, who's listening to us, has sent a greeting. We respond also. Tommy Nubo, who is also listening in, has sent a message and is saying that Nana Konedu Agyeman Rawlings rest in peace. That is in reference to our earlier story about the burial of the former First Lady Nana Konedu Agyeman Rawlings. Ohima Goldie has also sent a farewell message and says, "Fare thee well, Madam," which is in relation to our lead story for today. Time now, though, for the latest in the world of business, and Bismarck Ewusa will bring that to us. Stay with 3FM 92.7.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Ewusa. Coming up tonight, Ghana Revenue Authority launches investigation into alleged extortion by Customs Task Force in Ashanti region. We'll bring you details of this story and others lined up for you. Please stay. Before we go to the story of the Ghana Revenue Authority GRA investigations into alleged extortion by Customs Task Force in Ashanti region, let's hear some details of what led to the probe. On Tuesday, November 25, 2025, the Traders Advocacy Group Ghana, TAG, demanded an immediate and critical action from Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority GRA and government to crack the whip on Ashanti Regional Task Force of the Customs Division of the GRA. The leadership of TAG has accused the Regional Task Force of engaging in systematic extortion and undermining legitimate trade. Let's hear from the General Secretary of TAG, Nana Poku.
This officer allegedly extorted 40,000 Ghana cedis from an importer who had lawfully cleared 4 containers. The importer had already delivered 2 containers in Accra and was transporting remaining 2 to Kumasi. To prove what we are saying, this is the cash transaction the importer transferred to the said officer. This is 10,000, and then he handed 30,000 to the officer. This is proof enough. Upon learning that his actions had been exposed, reportedly paid the 40,000 into government coffers. This is the receipt. We demand an immediate investigations into the specific allegation against Officer Prince Daniel Mensah-Odai and the Ashanti Region Task Force. A comprehensive audit review of the necessity, operations, and oversight mechanisms of all customs task forces. A transparent procedure to prevent extortion and ensure fair valuation practice. Establishment of clear, accessible, and independent channel for traders to report corruption without fear or reprisal.
And that was the General Secretary of the Traders Advocacy Group Ghana, TAG, Nana Poku. Meanwhile, the GRA has officially commenced a high-level internal investigation following serious allegations of extortion leveled against some officers of the Customs Division of the task force operating in Ashanti region. The move comes after the Traders Advocacy Group Ghana, TAG, raised the alarm over what they describe as systemic corruption, which they warned threatens trade and public trust in state institutions. There is more in the following 3 Business News Desk report.
The core of the allegation centers on complaints from importers whose containers already cleared and en route to Kumasi were intercepted by Custom Task Force. The officers allegedly cited undervaluation of the goods and subsequently demanded additional payment from importers who contested these demands were unjustified and illegal. TAG specifically cited an incident involving an officer who allegedly intercepted 2 containers, initially demanded 120,000 Ghana cedis before reportedly settling on a payment of 40,000 Ghana cedis through mobile money and cash. The traders group characterized this as an illegal shakedown, claiming these funds were later paid into state accounts in an attempt to cover up the transaction after the incident was reported. In response to the mounting pressure and seriousness of the claims, the Ghana Revenue Authority has assured the public and its stakeholders, particularly traders and importers, that it is taking the matter with the utmost seriousness.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. Moving on, the United Nations Resident Coordinator in Ghana, Asiedu-Dartey, urges the Ghanaian government to continue its efforts in reducing its already declining public debt. He commended the Ghana International Investment Trade and Finance Conference, GITFIC, on its 9th annual meeting for bringing together stakeholders to discuss debt restructuring and the maiden AFCFTA Tertiary Students' Congress.
On November 27, the Ghana International Investment Trade and Finance Conference, GITFIC, held its annual meeting to have dialogues on ways to handle the current global financial hardships, which have placed extreme exigencies on several member states and governments across the world. This convening is on the back of the GITFIC Agenda 2031, a 6-year development agenda which seeks to highlight the Global Debt Initiative and the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfTA. Selassie Akom is the Chief Executive Officer of GITFIC.
Ghana is doing so fantastic, and so we intend to use our beloved country as the cornerstone in advancing the Global Debt Initiative, where we loop in member states and try to have them understand how Ghana is doing it so they can take advantage of and also implement or replicate same in their various countries. So this is what encompasses the GITFIC Agenda 2031.
Among the keynote speakers were British economist Ann Pettifer and United Nations Resident Coordinator in Ghana, Asiedu-Dartey, who intimated the major pioneering role Ghana can play in upholding proper and sustainable debt management.
For me, one of the biggest challenges facing Ghana, and I'm looking at the young people in this audience, is not the debt problem. It's not the fiscal problem. It's the problem of youth unemployment. It's far too high in Ghana, particularly in urban and also rural areas. And in my view, the government should be freed up from its debt service obligations in order to transfer resources towards the interests of those young people.
Debt relief was no longer seen as a charitable act by the rich guys and the big banks, including the guys sitting here. It's not a charity by them. It was seen as an act of economic justice, of repairing something which was fundamentally wrong.
And that report brings us to the end of the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck. Also, for more business stories, please check out our website, 3news.com. Thanks for your company. Bill Eshan is here for sports. Please stay. 92.7
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Bill Ishen. Let's start off from the Ghana Premier League, where former 11 Wonders head coach, Coach J. Sapong, has cautioned other head coaches who are considering taking the job of 11 Wonders, stating that they will be digging their own grave if they decide to take on that particular club. Now, J. Sapong recently resigned from the club after managing for just 3 games and struggled to get any victory from those 3 games. Now, he spoke in an exclusive at TV3.
Coach will go there and then help them to survive. I don't know. Because right now, like I said, if any coach dares to go there, you are thinking,
oh,
yeah, yes.
Are you not deterring people from going for that?
Oh, no, you can go. I'm just speaking on TV. If you like, listen to me. If you don't like, it's not my fault. That is my way. I'm telling you. In the Olympics, you are talking about Olympics, they have the management in place. So the management will talk to you. Other teams have management in place, they will talk to you. This one, I didn't see any management member. It was the team manager, myself, and assistant coach. 9 members of the game, of the time, even the kids officer refused coming to training. The goalkeeper's trainer didn't come. The physiotherapist was not there. Coaches may go there, but I'm telling you, this is what we are going to see. Unless, of course, within 24 hours or 48 hours, things have changed. By me, I'm not going back.
That was J. Sapong, the former head coach of 11 Wonders FC. Now, let's talk about some more football here. But in the women's division, the Black Queens have been preparing very, very feverishly for their friendly game against England. Now, they began camp in England on Thursday with 16 players reporting to camp. And we understand that 22 players trained earlier today in England on their second training session, and that match will be taking place in England against England's women's team on the 2nd of December 2025. Now, to some of the stories, Arne Slot, who is the head coach of Liverpool, has stated that he can handle the pressure after his recent struggles. Now, Liverpool lost by 4-1 to PSV in the UEFA Champions League on Wednesday night, putting some further pressure on the manager.
There's a lot of pressure if you work or play at a top club, and even more so if you start losing more games than this club or this players or this manager is used to. So then there's always pressure. But there was a lot of pressure last season as well for us to win the league, and now it's a different kind of pressure because we've lost so many games. But what it does to me, I can just do the same, but I don't have to play. So maybe my job is a little bit easier if it comes to this, because I think it's hard for every player. If you are in a bad run of results, if you go down immediately after 3 minutes, and then you play a good first half, and then 10 minutes after halftime, again you concede. So we get knock after knock after knock, which is hard, but that's why I keep saying that especially when that happens, we have to keep fighting, and that's what we've done so well last season.
That was Arne Slot, the head coach of Liverpool. Here are the fixtures in the Premier League for round 13. Brentford will be facing Burnley, Man City will host Leeds, Sunderland will host Bournemouth, Everton will host Newcastle, Tottenham will host Fulham, Crystal Palace will be hosting Manchester United, Aston Villa will face Wolves, Nottingham Forest will face Brighton, West Ham United will face Liverpool, and the biggest one of the weekend will be Chelsea versus Arsenal at the Stamford Bridge. Bringing an end to sports here on the 3FM edition, and also bringing an end to this particular episode of the 3FM Hot Edition. We'll see you same time on Monday to give you some more updates. Until then, have a great weekend.